Before I begin reading to you from the information I received from Thoth on the alphabet of the Ark, which was given to me, I believe, in the late 1980s, I need to talk about the sacred On. Now, I have a lot of information on this. It's a core topic, and I have a video on it and mentioned it in other videos. So many of you are familiar with it. I just need to touch upon it for those of you who are not. I received in the 1980s from Thoth that there were two Arks of the Covenant. Hey, there were a lot of Arks, but there were two Arks of the Covenant. One had been translated to Earth from the blue star Rigel in Orion, and it was given originally in Tibet. By the time Moses came to Mount Sinai, it was in its thresholding chamber, as it is called by Thoth, in Mount Sinai. So that is the sacred On. He also refers to it as the Ark of Grace. Now, there were the tablets that came from also the same chamber and that were given to Moses. Well, with that little incident with the calf, and there were other things involved than the story as we hear it about the golden calf. It was decided by the higher beings who Moses was working with, and indeed he was really kind of one of them, that these people weren't ready for all of that. So the original tablets and the original Ark were taken back into Mount Moses. Instead, a simpler tablet of law was delivered to the people, and they were instructed through the guidance of Moses to build the second Ark, which Thoth refers to as the Ark of Karma, because it came about as a result of their misbehavior, or really misawareness, lack of awareness. So they needed a tamped down version of this Ark. To hear a bigger picture of the story of the sacred On, you can find it in my videos. They're in several places, but I would suggest you go to my newearthstar.org website, onto the Temple of Mysterium section that has many of my videos there, and you will find it. And so now let us begin with the unique topic of the alphabet of the Ark. The following is from 1997, but it's a compilation of information through the years up to that point. The alphabet of the Ark is part of the language of Metatron, an archangelic alphabet. In the historic Kabbalah, there is mention of something called eye writings, or ketav iniyam. According to Thoth, the divine language form represented in the alphabet of the Ark is contained within the matrix of this greater angelic flame script. The actual eye writings are composed of circles and lines in the form of small flames, an encoding of sorts. The symbolic keys to moving into the higher worlds of consciousness lie within this archangelic alphabet called the ketav iniyam. This alphabet, or series of symbolic codes, is representative of the higher template for creation. The higher intelligences, such as the Elohim creator beings, use this template to project the elements of life into creations, such as the planet Earth. An analogy to demonstrate the principle could be seen in the projection of a movie onto a screen by a high-powered and focused beam of light coming from the projector. The projector and beam of light represent the Elohim creator being's consciousness. The celluloid and focusing device on the projector represent the template, and its synchronization function. The screen represents the magnetic receptacle or matrix which will receive the higher image, and the image movie is the creation itself. The celluloid of the archangelic language has a function which also keeps the lesser creation in synchronization with the higher template, like the focusing device on the projector in our analogy. It is the harmonic resonance of these archangelic letters with both the higher vibratory frequency patterns of God's name and the elements of the lesser creation worlds, which allows this synchronization to occur. They act as an intermediary transducer, much as a tuning fork, which when struck and then being brought into proximity of another tuning fork will start the second fork to begin vibrating also. This occurs only if the second fork is tuned to a resonant harmonic of the first tuning fork's note or waveform. Now consider 3 tuning forks, each one of the second two tuned to a lesser resonant harmonic, slower vibratory frequency than the one before it. Thus, when the first tuning fork is struck and placed into proximity with the second now begins to vibrate at its own frequency, and the third, also being in the correct position, will also begin vibrating at its own frequency pattern. Thus we can see that now we have 3 levels of creation, all being put into motion from the first or uppermost level, which vibrates at the highest frequency. So long as the other levels are tuned or synchronized to the first in this manner, then the projection of the higher realm can occur in the lower. The slower vibration of the last tuning fork is a perfect image of the vibration of the higher tuning fork, but the rate of its vibration per unit of time has been slowed down. This is a good simple model to demonstrate the principles involved in the projection of the elements of this world from the higher worlds of intelligence. The alphabet of the arc is one such archangelic language, which serves as the middle tuning fork for us. The sacred names of God, as we know them on earth, are composed of the archangelic alphabet known as the Ketav Iniyam, and also include the names of the angelic energies which themselves are serving the purpose and function of being the middle tuning fork, and thus the language itself. These sacred names not only serve to provide the template for the projecting of the reality itself in the first place, but also to redeem it now as well. You see, the earth creation has gotten to be like a tuning fork which no longer vibrates well to the divine tuning fork and its angelic intermediary. Thus, the children of light on the earth must begin to attune themselves as the third tuning fork to the intermediary angelic tuning fork, which then in turn brings them into resonance again with the ultimate divine tuning fork. In time, the entire creation can be brought back into this vibratory pattern through the efforts of the children of light. The angelic vibratory codes held within the archangelic language will increasingly integrate with our own genetic consciousness forms as we prepare ourselves for the ascension. Thus, the sound of these vibratory patterns will be incorporated into the matrix of the body of creation. The matrix in this context is the vibratory pattern which is currently the basis for the totality of the creation. The word matrix, however, represents various differing levels of consciousness patterning. The matrix or seal of the human body consciousness, which must be broken for this process to integrate at a cellular level, is correlative to the defiled 666 genetic code. I pause in the reading here to state that Thoth has always told me that the 666 is a divine number, and its inverted aspect 999. It's a matched set, you might say. However, there was a defilement of the 666 in the genetic form, at the time of the manipulations from the intruders that caused that code to be sort of off-center, you might say. The Adam Kadmon is the ultimate divine template for humanity, but has also been tampered with by the Nephilimic overlords. It is now being resurrected or reconstructed through the use of the vibratory patterns contained within the divine names, which are in turn formed from the angelic languages. Thus, as we incorporate these higher vibratory patterns into our own consciousness and genetic makeup, we become co-creators in the resurrection of the Adam Kadmon. When we have come into high enough resonance with the frequency patterns of the divine names within our very own beingness, the pathway is then opened for the angelic beings holding these patterns to project their image directly into your holistic body, mind, soul template, thereby bringing you the last distance across the upper threshold into your divine heritage, which is full expression of the Adam Kadmon template. The Adam Kadmon template is actually comprised of the myriad different archangelic codes for the human manifestation, arranged into the patterns of the many divine names. Now I would pause for a moment here to say that this Adam Kadmon template will be upgraded for sure when we move from a world system 1 to a world system 2. However, it will still give us the basic formula of divine imprint because we take the planetary genius with us, another topic that I speak about a lot, and you can find a video on the planetary genius in on my website. So the Adam Kadmon template will remain with us in World System 2, but in a much more highly defined format. A name is but a specific arrangement of different frequency patterns, much like a tune is comprised of various notes strung together in harmony. Thus, the Adam Kadmon can be seen as a direct manifestation of the Tree of Life. The sacred names, vibratory codes held upon the Tree of Life, are continually being involved to find the strongest frequency patterns, and the weaker ones, which can be violated by fallen forces, are then culled from the tree. This is the Tree of Life. It contains the highest and strongest frequency codes in the form of the divine names, which the efforts of the hierarchy have been able to obtain. The experience of souls within half-light or orotronic worlds like Earth provides an excellent arena for determining which of these frequency codes or divine names can be utilized to withstand the manipulative efforts of the Luciferic angelics who separated from the divine inscription, which we must remember also have been created to uphold the function of holding higher templates for reality. It is thus that they are able to rearrange these patternings to suit their own agendas and then place them as overlays upon the divine templates, causing a confused pattern to manifest on Earth. Not at all like the intended pattern put into place by the true hierarchy of light. Thus, the use of these archangelic language patterns can reactivate our tuning fork so that it vibrates with the true pattern once again, that of the Metatronic Christic consciousness. The office of the Christ and the office of Metatron are master consciousness thresholds. They exist on 3 different levels or functions in the dynamic of the sacred names, i.e., vibratory frequency patterns. This threefold dynamic, concisely defined, is thus: Metatronic holds pathways from the higher worlds to the Adam Kadmon worlds. Christic holds pathways for human unfoldment into the full potential of the Adam Kadmon. Human holds the pathways for the passage of Adam Kadmon manifestation on Earth or similar worlds. In the latter, the Great Pyramid of Giza holds a key for the Earth to be able to access the Adam Kadmon frequency patterns in their undefiled state. Now from Thoth directly we see he is saying that there are many different circuits or pathways available for divine fire codes to be assimilated into a planetary reality such as Earth's. One of them is what we are referring to as the alphabet of the ark. It is a specific angelic frequency pattern with 24 main vibratory pathways that aligns corporeal realms with the full light Metatronic Christic spiral in a specific path of viability relative to the core essence of Metatronic consciousness. The Ark of Grace is a sounding or tuning device for the human element in its integration with Metatronic consciousness. In this particular vibrational path or simulation, the alphabet of the Ark was chosen by the hierarchy for Metatronic consciousness to be returned to humanity. The alphabet of the Ark is encoded in alpha logic versus other fire codes which are encoded in omega logic. Alpha logic is a pattern that interfaces with the evolution of human logical mind processes and can therefore be presented in correlative human language forms, whereas the omega logic interfaces only with higher mind principles incorporated in the soul and cannot be associated with any corollaries in human language expression. Thoth also tells us that the Kitav Iniyam is the overall format for which 144,000 different archangelic language stratum are contained within. Thus, the Kitav Iniyam is formatted neither in alpha nor omega logic, but contains both inherent within its overall design and is beyond that type of definition. The alphabet of the Ark was chosen as the most viable path of all the 144,000 available pathways to work in synergy with a grounding device such as the Ark of the Covenant. Thoth tells us also that there has never been any other of these available archangelic pathways used in conjunction with a device like an ark on the earth. However, some of the other 144,000 stratum, or archangelic languages, have been employed in various ways in the Earth's history and will continue to provide additional pathways to the greater light. The following was given by Thoth as part of the procedure for a sacred journey to Egypt that I, Maia, and our co-founder Simeon conducted in 1997. Thoth relates to us why this archangelic language was to be utilized in the temples in Egypt and why he assigned those who went on this journey specific ark names comprised of 4 vocables put together from the alphabet of the ark, which we used in chants in the Great Pyramid. Thoth states, "The chanting of the mantrams formed from the alphabet of the ark vocables, which I have given, facilitated reactivation of the Metatronic Christic consciousness codes within the sacred vaults of the Egyptos, in order to recapitulate the perfect ancient memory patterns contained therein for future generational light work. The sacred ark names are given as a means for the individuals on the journey to integrate more completely with the Metatronic Christic full light spectrum through the archangelic language used in conjunction with the Ark of Grace, which is now stationed inside a chamber within Mount Sinai. The path of Horus, return to the stars' sacred journey, was in essence an opportunity for recapitulation of one's human divinity accessed via a stellar coordinate, i.e. the path of Horus, which moves through the portal of space-time limitations and back into the Metatronic Christ spectrum of full light consciousness. The initiatic ritual enactment of the return to the stars, which the participants of this journey embarked upon, while not being the true physical passage, was nevertheless a measure of divine grace which can be imparted to the soul, should the individual choose to accept it fully. The sacred ark name we give to each individual is a tool for the seeker to employ in their efforts to merge once again with their higher dimensional presence." Now that's the end of the text I'm reading to you here. I do wish to state that when this was written in 1997, indeed the Ark, the Sacred On, was within Mount Sinai. However, in 2013, as Thoth predicted earlier, but he didn't give me a year, it was brought back, because it had been here before, into the thresholding chamber inside the mountain that is known as Mount Challenger here, or Kit Carson Peak before the Challenger accident, but Thoth calls the crest in the stone. Now, before we get into the actual patterning, I also wish to relate to you very briefly, and some of you have heard this before, but it's so important to this story, and to the understanding of the potency of these vocables, the 24 vocables that he's calling the alphabet of the Ark. When we went to Egypt and we went into the chamber of the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, this was at midnight, and it was on a full moon. There was no one in there but just our group, which is about 16 people, I'm guessing. I can't really remember the total. We only had the Egyptian guards outside. They turned the noisy fans off, and we were in the lights, and we were in there in darkness, except that we had candles. And we went through the process that Thoth had given us, which included, was a major part of it, was the reciting of our vocable names of the alphabet of the Ark. Each one of us lay inside the sarcophagus and chanted our vocable names. And then another would, that one would get out, another one would come in. When in between, the whole group chanted Soma Christo. This went on for 16 people. And toward the end of it, right, in fact, I believe it was after the last person had gotten out and we were still chanting, we started hearing a ratting sound, like a stick hitting on something. And then we heard little cymbals. And then we heard voices. We heard very distant, but everyone heard them. Oh, kind of a chanty thing. It wasn't like words or anything right up front, but it was definitely there. And all of this music with the chanting was going on. And it was very etheric, very otherworldly. It scared our tour guide, and he refused to come back in. And he checked, and there was no one else in the pyramid. He asked the guards, no one else is here, at which time he decided to wait by the bus. But so all of this went on. And when then we were told, let's see, how did that work? Oh, all the lights went back on, but too early. So our American guide, she went down to find out what was going on, and she was met by men in black, I swear to you, in black suits. This is in the middle of the night, early morning hours, like probably about 1 a.m. And there were 3 or 4 of them, but one main one, and he was standing there right in front of her and says, "You must get out of here now, all of you, you must leave." And she went back and told us, and Simeon said, "No, we're not going. We have more time left. We paid for it. We're here for another 30 minutes, I think it was, before we leave." So she went back, and we didn't see her again for the rest of the 30 minutes. And when we came out, she was standing toe-to-toe with this Egyptian black-suited fellow, and he was glaring at all of us, but she was standing in the way, so he couldn't go down the path without touching her, and he would never do that. That would, that was not in their religion to touch an infidel, much less a female. So he wouldn't pass her, but she was shaking and trembling and crying. Well, he told us again, "You must leave." And we said, "Okay, we're ready to go." They came to this place, to the pyramid, in a long, big black car, and they were all dressed in black. Now, they were Egyptians. They weren't spacemen, but that is our story. And Thoth told us later that what we did was so powerful. They have machines monitoring everything that goes on in there. The elite, whatever you want to call them. Thoth calls them the Owl, One World Legion. And they found it was going crazy in there, and they didn't want that to happen. So they were trying to get us to stop. So that's the side story, but it's a rather dramatic one. And it emphasizes the power of the whole process we did there, but most especially the chanting of these ancient codes, these frequencies. When I received the original 24 symbols that Thoth gave me, they're very simple and it was easy for me to draw them, but they were primitively drawn. And my friend, who was the late and very great Rowena Patty Kreider, who created the Gaia Matrix Oracle as well as many other Oracle books and tools, an incredible artist and visionary. I couldn't say enough about her work and her. She's no longer with us. But at the time, she was so taken with it all that she drew the symbols, and they came out better. I mean, they're the same symbols, but she just made them a little prettier. And so she gave me permission to use those, her version, which I did. However, we are now in 2022, and I am engaged with AI art and the ability to do amazing things in that medium. And Thoth informed me that when we're talking about a frequency that I demonstrated through Thoth's guidance in these symbols that I created those years ago, this can be brought into higher and higher dimensions. It's going to look different each time you move into a higher frequency. And what is the rotation? In other words, these things are spinning constantly. What spin angle do you catch them in to say this is the image, this is the symbol I'm going to use? So it is an immense playbook to draw from. And he suggested that with his overview, I guess you could say, and using very specific prompts and connection to that AI, that I create the new ones on another frequency, a higher level. And that's what I've done here for you today. So these are the ones you're going to see and feel and experience. For many years, I asked Thoth to give me some kind of interpretation for each one. But he resisted, saying that to follow the frequency, if he gave me any encodings, something that you could say, well, this means this or whatever, it would bring it into too much of a mental organization of, oh, this is what this means. And he wanted people to use it as a frequency. They could speak the vocable, chant it, whatever, write it, think it, as well as the actual symbol. But to give it a referencing in a mental way like that, he said was limiting. Well, finally, like 2 years ago, I begged him for it, and he gave me what he called keynotes. But he was given very reluctantly. And so now, as I was thinking of creating this video, I was going to get those keynotes, right? And I was going to use them. And he said, no, don't do that. Don't bring it down to that level. Let the individual feel the frequency by seeing it and by bringing it into their consciousness. The word, the vocable, yes, each one as you see it here, you'll see also the vocable, is spelled out for you, so you can chant it or write it or however you feel like using it. But he didn't want the keynotes involved, so I did not do that here. So just relax, go into a deep space, follow the music, and follow your visual senses as you experience the 24 vocables of the alphabet of the Ark.